Hey everyone, Eddie Wilson here with Think Realty, the video podcast we put out each and every week. I'm excited to come to you. As the owner and founder of Think Realty, my name is Eddie Wilson. I know that normally you're used to seeing Avi Golhar on this show, but with everything going on in the country today, it has been a difficult change up as we have shifted things around. And I get to go all the way back to my roots, back to my TV and radio days 20 years ago, where it all started. I get to now do some of these podcast interviews, which are always exciting for me. I enjoy getting to bring on our partners and friends and relationships around the country to bring you great content. And so today is no exception to that. I've got a great guest for you today. But before I get to that, let me just say a quick thank you to our podcast sponsor. The podcast sponsor today is Real Property Management, which is the largest residential property management franchise in North America, managing tens of thousands of properties for individuals, investors, and institutions throughout the country. You can learn more at realpropertymanagement.com. That's realpropertymanagement.com. You can also call them at 888-806-7088. Our guest today is Jason Green from Roofstock. Jason, are you with us?
Yep. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you again.
You too.
Very good. So obviously the whole world today is working from home. It looks like you're potentially doing the same.
Yeah. So my modem is in my bedroom, so I had to hardwire in and adjust on the fly.
Yeah. It's funny how have you seen any of the work fail at home memes yet? Have you seen that, like with cats jumping on people and kids running around and stuff like that? So
yeah, we've had some of our own.
Yeah,
for
sure. That's awesome. Well, Roofstock, obviously a nationwide provider. If you don't mind, just take a minute or two and explain to our audience who Roofstock is. If there's somebody that's watching that doesn't know, explain to them the model and kind of how the system works.
Yeah, so our customer-facing website is an online marketplace for people to buy and sell cash-flowing rental properties. And we're kind of specifically focused on the single-family rental sector. Our goal is to break down barriers of location to investing and help investors invest outside of their local market. If you look at traditional real estate investment, it's typically done, within 30 to 40 miles of where folks live. And, on average, our investors are over 1,000 miles from the properties they buy. And we kind of help them with all the diligence and our certification, doing inspections, collecting and reviewing all the documents, linking them up with local property management, lenders, insurance providers. And, we're trying to make that process much simpler for everyone, and make it easier to invest. If you live in California or New York or New Jersey on the coast, it can be pretty tough with the barrier to entry of price to invest locally. And so we can show you opportunities in Atlanta, Dallas, Midwest markets all over that are more affordable and easier to invest in.
That's awesome. I think there are so many people that live in areas today where it's prohibitive for them to invest in their backyard, whether it's a California market or New York, or a place where there's just little to no inventory. And so obviously Roofstock provides a service. Now, you said that you help them kind of identify and see the marketplace and then buy from afar, and then you connect them with property managers and things like that they would need so that they could be truly take a passive path to investing. That's correct?
Correct. And most of these properties already have tenants in place, so you're kind of cash flowing the day you close. It can be a struggle to try to go out to one of these markets yourself, find a broker or provider, or a turnkey provider, and kind of put all those pieces together yourself. We're just trying to make it simpler.
Sure. Yeah. So do you have a lot of self-directed IRA people that are trying to self-direct their investments that come into your platform and use it as a mechanism to invest?
Correct. We see quite a few. We also get people who have boot in their 1031 exchanges that need to fill a small gap.
Sure.
That's something we're trying to grow as well. Is these properties are already pre-vetted with inspections and title and leases and ledgers and all the documents. So if you need a quick solution to fill part of your exchange, I think we're an ideal place to look.
That's a great point. And I guess I never thought about that. I've had that issue many times where I'm 1031ing out of a property and my next investment doesn't necessarily meet all the criteria. And so I never thought about that, like, especially going from a multifamily, investment or something like that, but using this to kind of make sure that I'm getting the most out of that exchange that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, typically they're never lining up dollar to dollar on
Right.
an exchange, and there is going to be, $100,000, $200,000 difference, and it's a great place to at least see what the options are to kind of fill those small gaps that come about.
Sure. Um, as far as these properties on your site, what's an average cost? I mean, I'm sure you probably have them in huge ranges, but is there kind of an average cost of a property that's being sold on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, we're gearing towards more entry level housing. It's in the 100 to $125,000 range. We'll get you a pretty solid property. We obviously have homes that are higher yielding and higher risk that are more like 50, 60,000. We do see inventory in the 200,000 plus, but I'd say in that 100 to $125,000 price point is about the average.
That's awesome. The sweet spot of that, entry level home. Let me ask you a question. So a lot of our viewers and the Think Realty, members have had and experienced great growth over the past 8 to 10 years. I mean, the marketplace has been amazing for investors. And maybe they started off with one or two or five rental properties, and then they leveraged it and they ended up with 10 or 15 or 20 or sometimes hundreds of rental properties. Do you provide any services on the back end? I know, from a buying standpoint, you can look at the site, you can see the properties that are on there. How about, portfolio disposition? Do you ever do anything like that? Do you work with those to help sell their portfolios on the platform?
Yeah, so that's one of my main roles as the director of portfolio services. We broker a lot of the major portfolio transactions that happen out in the marketplace. We work with a lot of the big institutions as well as, people who have become mid-sized operators after accumulating properties over years, like you said. So we can provide interesting strategies to, disperse a portfolio, in one deal or to multiple different buyers. We focus on that, and we have a team that focuses on that all day in and day out.
Yeah. Do you find that most people, on the buying side are coming and paying cash for the home and then refinancing, or do some of them come and purchase with financing in place? What's a traditional strategy, or is it, everything is different?
I would say for the retail one-off properties, we're still seeing about 70% of people using financing.
Mm-hmm.
The rates are still pretty good right
Sure.
now, and pretty low barrier to entry to get one of those loans. On the institutional side, a lot of times they will purchase in cash, and then usually they have some sort of debt facility that they will end up putting those properties on post close. But on portfolio deals, we work with lenders like Corvest and Lima One and others who are providing portfolio financing for folks as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. And probably for everybody watching, obviously any of those mechanisms work. I mean, if you have cash, taking a property down, but then finding financing for it, and then continuing to roll that opportunity, makes sense as well. With our current, nation situation, obviously, the market's kind of in some turmoil. We have some issues going on. There are probably going to be both people excited to buy because the opportunities may increase, and there may be some tentative people that really want to dispose of their assets. They may want to cash out. What's the best way for either of them? Let's start with kind of the disposition model. Like I'm sitting on 20, 30, 40 rental properties. what does that process look like if I were to engage Roofstock and say, hey, I got 20, 30, 40 rental properties that I'm looking at selling? What's that process look like?
Yeah, and that would depend on kind of we kind of help you strategize. We're a collective. We don't look at it as we dictate how you should dispose of your portfolio, and that also would depend on what kind of debt structure the owner has, because in some cases the only way they can sell with their debt structure is in bulk. Typically, you're probably going to see better price execution if you're open to selling them one at a time. On the one at a time route, we would ask to be able to go out and do an inspection with a third party vendor. We would ask to collect copies of all the leases and ledgers, any Section 8 documents, any kind of CC&Rs or HOA documents. We like to vet all that information before we list properties to make sure what is being sold is clear and deliverable title, no kind of rental restrictions if it's in an HOA, and that home passes minimum certification and habitability standards per that market. So that's kind of what the one-off route looks like. The bulk route, we don't need to do all those things necessarily. It just depends on what flexibility the owner has within their debt structure, what flexibility they have on pricing. Usually you're going to see folks wanting a little bigger discount for bulk trades as opposed to one at a time. So all those things are kind of taken into account when we're discussing strategy with, portfolio owners.
And then as far as acquisitions, I mean, just go to the website, look at the opportunities, or if someone's saying, hey, I really want to buy 10 or 15 or 20 deals, should they actually speak to someone and actually go through any type of a, I know that you guys do a lot of market trending and you're looking at markets across the country. Is there an advisor that maybe they could go to if they're looking at buying more than just one property?
Yeah, correct. Anyone who registers on the site is reached out to usually within 48 hours with a phone call. We have a full account rep team that is kind of walking folks through the platform, how to use it, kind of discussing what their strategy is, and kind of helping them walk through all that. So you're welcome to reach out and can speak to someone live and kind of discuss strategy and all those things.
Yeah, very good. I know that, asking people to predict where the market's going and things like that is just, there is no way to predict where it's going. But it's interesting because where we are today, and I own Think Realty, the platform there, and then I also own the American Association of Private Lenders, and I get some that are kind of cautiously excited maybe for the opportunities that are going to come in the near future. I also have those that are filing everything they can to try to get any government subsidy or help with their businesses because they're struggling. We've talked to chief economists, we've talked to everybody, but just your general sense and Roofstock's general sense for 6 months, 9 months, 18 months down the road. Do you guys have an optimism towards the marketplace and the opportunities that are coming down the road?
We do. We feel very good about the underlying fundamentals of single-family investments still. This has not tempered that optimism at all. Certainly, it's brought about challenges, and it's made us look deeper into all of our processes and things we can become better at while we have a little bit more time to explore things like that. We feel it'll probably bring some buy opportunities for folks in 6 months. I don't think sellers have gotten there yet on kind of lowering their price expectations. I think there's still quite a bit of wait to see on the seller side of things. But we are talking to many, large institutional funds, small buyers who, have cash and are going to be looking for those opportunities. Fix and flips, I think, are a little more speculative. It's kind of hard to chase a market if it's going down, but the underlying fundamentals of, holding single family rentals for long term, we still we will never lower our optimism for that kind of strategy. And, especially with all the stock market volatility and all those things, we still feel like it's a good safe haven. Now, there may be a temporary blip in rent collections, but we don't expect that to be a long-term issue if you're in it for the long term.
Sure, and you bring a great point, and so much of the content that we've been putting out on Think Realty, echoes what you're saying. In this market with the volatility of the stock market, even if the single family, if the SFR industry begins to devalue even a little, it's not emotional like the stock market is. It takes months to get that to undulate, in big numbers. So, it's a safer investment. And then on the other side of it, you have, and this is a rough stat to look at, but you have right now, 8, 9, 10 million people that have filed for unemployment. And most of the time, filing for unemployment is a precursor to those that are going to struggle with credit issues in the future, those that are going to struggle with home ownership in the future. And so it really does kind of tip the scale in the favor of these single family rentals as a great vehicle. I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I mean, food, water, shelter, those are the basic needs of every human. And so these people have to have a place to live. And if they can't buy a house because they don't qualify or they've lost their house, they're going to be renters. And so, putting yourself into a decent SFR portfolio, it makes a lot of sense. We've been saying a lot of the same of what you're saying.
Yeah, and the debt is still pretty reasonable. I know it's kind of been fluctuating a little bit, but we feel the rates are still going to be good. The fundamentals of the real estate market, there's still low inventory and attractive debt. So it still has a lot of those good fundamentals.
Right.
And everyone needs a place to live, like you pointed out.
Yeah.
And one of the funny theories I actually heard is this may drive people a little bit away from apartment living. Like myself, I am stuck in an apartment for this is going on 4 weeks, and I'd kill for a house with a yard right now.
Yeah, for sure. That's probably a point well taken by a lot of people. Yeah, and it's interesting because we feel like single family, the SFR market is kind of the foundation for real estate investment. And then as we mature and we develop, we kind of look at it and we go, okay, well then you kind of get into multifamily. If you're like me, you start in single family, then you get into student housing, then you get into multifamily, then you get into hospitality. For me though, looking back, hindsight, my greatest investment I ever made is still a single family house, that I still rent out, that still pays the bill. My multifamily, I'm terrified. I'm not terrified, but it's scary when you look at it. If I only collect 60% of the rents, in a 150, 200 unit building, or the hotel that I have a piece of, we've been at 10% occupancy over the past, few weeks. And so guess who's still paying their rents? The SFR. Guess who still wants to live there and still needs it and are still out in their yards playing every day? And it's just, for me, it's funny because it's like we feel like sometimes we look at it and go, well, the SFR is kind of the baseline for getting into real estate investment. Really, it's probably the most tried and true. My values have stayed good over the past few years. They've increased steadily in every market I'm in. My rents have been solid. And so it seems like you guys are well positioned for everything that's to come here in the near future.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you said. Some of the best investments I purchased during the last mortgage crisis and still own them. Rental assets, long-term rentals. A lot of the short-term folks are struggling right now with vacation rentals. People are locked in, not going on trips.
Right.
I don't think anyone could have predicted what's going on right now, but just the long-term stability of rents and the single-family asset is hard to ignore.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you, Jason, so much for your time today. I appreciate it. If they want to go find out more about Roofstock, roofstock.com.
Yeah, roofstock.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Jay Green at roofstock.com. Would love to hear from you guys. Happy to chat always. I'm a real estate junkie.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you at the next conference, or we'll see you around. I'm sure we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having
Jason.
me.
Yep. Thank you so much for watching the Think Realty video podcast today. It's our privilege to bring you great guests each and every week. And I hope that you look at the platform of Roofstock as a potential opportunity. You can go there, you can see the opportunities they have. And if you're in disposition mode, why not look at them as an opportunity for the disposing of your properties? It might be a great opportunity for you there. Put more eyes on your property than just the local market. It's not that I'm against, putting your properties in front of a local agent, but maybe, giving it to someone like a Roofstock would give you more national eyes or more visibility to some of the hedge funds and things like that buy some of the properties and portfolios that they have. Again, thank you so much to our sponsors today, Real Property Management, and also Clint Coons of Anderson Business Advisors. They're a nationally recognized firm for providing bulletproof asset protection, tax and business strategy advice to real estate investors. You can get more information on Anderson Business Advisors and them helping you set up your assets or getting some tax advice at getbulletprooftoday.com, getbulletprooftoday.com. You will also receive Clint's free book, Asset Protection for Real Estate Investors. And if you go to that website and register, they will gladly send you a book. Please support them as a thank you for them supporting us. They're a great partner of ours. Thank you guys so much for watching today. If you haven't already joined us on social media, make sure you join us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are, we are providing you great content and information as a real estate investor. Also, go to thinkrealty.com and download the latest digital version of our magazine. You can also subscribe and have it delivered to your house in physical form, or when everything begins to open back up, you can go to Barnes & Noble and pick it up on the shelves of Barnes & Noble. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Happy investing.